We're Midwest guys. You guys are out east, right?
We
Yeah.
are. We're on the right. Without the buildings, I could be looking at New York.
Yeah. Oh, and where are you coming to us from, Glenn?
Same place, right here in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. So I like to do this thing to my co-host Brakken, which this is Brakken, obviously. I set this up, but Brakken sort of controls the controls of the podcast. And I like to drop episodes on him where he has no idea what he's getting into. And I think it's just the best. So Brakken, I want to hear if you know what you're getting into today.
If I know what I'm getting into, practically never, but the concept of a school that culminates a project with a outward bound walk of some sort, which seems to be long in duration.
Is that accurate, guys?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. 55 miles.
That's long enough.
So
Over 5 days. Yep.
5 days is what it is. So if you guys could, would you guys both mind introducing yourselves and maybe just a little background on who you guys are? And then we'll get into all sorts of tangents of this conversation, I'm sure. But just so everybody knows who we're chatting with today.
Sure. I'm Edwin Leahy. I'm head of school here at St. Benedict's Prep in downtown Newark, New Jersey.
And I'm Glenn Cassidy. I run what we call our Father Mark Payne Institute here at St. Benedict's Prep, which is the institute through which we share the best practices of St. Benedict's with other schools that might be interested in learning more about what we do here. In addition to that, I am the Big B, as we refer to it, which is the person responsible for the backpacking project that all of our students go on each year.
Excellent. Oh, go ahead, Brakken.
Well, what this backpacking project seems unique. How long has this been around for?
The first backpack was in spring of 1974, because we were committed to experiential education. In the early 70s, it was huge in the country. A lot of it coming out of the University of Minnesota and the University of Wisconsin. And it was really big. The questions were, how do you evaluate the students during these experiences that they're having? And that's, I think, because everybody was so locked into grades and everything. I think that's why it faded out some, but we never let it go. So the first backpack happened because we were committed to this, having these various experiences, lots of them in the city. But there were 12 kids that nobody would take on their project because they were afraid to cause a fight or steal something. There were some roughnecks from here in town. So I looked at my classmate, Father Philip, and I said, what are we going to do with 12 kids that nobody would take? I said, let's take them out in the woods. So I lived all my life in New Jersey, except for a brief time. I went to school for 1 year in Alabama and 1 year in Minnesota. And I'd never been on the Appalachian Trail in my life. Didn't know how to find it. We had to figure that all out. But we took these 12 kids and 2 of us, 14 of us were on the Appalachian Trail. And it's an absolute miracle that we all came back. I mean, there were fights. That was crazy. But from that was the very beginning. And then we did something similar a year later. And then the third year, a guy was interested in joining our monastery. I'm a Benedictine monk, who actually Glenn was an understudy of, so to speak, a Mark Payne. He came and he took the backpack project and he broke the kids into groups, and he grouped the groups and a company leader of each set of groups. And I'm looking at him. I said, why didn't I think to do that? Because I'm completely capable of doing that. But he developed the backpack project. And when I watched it, I said, we got to get everybody to do that. So fast forward, every one of our freshmen now is required to backpack Appalachian Trail in New Jersey under the direction.
Why?
Because it creates a communal adversity. It creates teamwork. Remember, we're in the middle of the city. And if you drew a circle around Newark, you'd probably put the compass point on our route. So we have kids that never live with darkness, never look with violence, because there's always noise and light somewhere in this. So it's, they can navigate the corner of one of the most violent corners in the city, and they can like come out in the woods and they'll say, "Get me out of here! It's too quiet." So, but it forces kids together, and we'll have guys that may not be in good enough shape to walk the whole trail with a pack on their back, and one of their teammates will carry the pack. So, developing leadership, reliance on one another, empathy, being able to feel for the struggle of somebody else, all of those things become super, super important, which is why Dr. Cassidy spends most of the year working on this thing and preparing for it and then debriefing it afterwards. Glenn, what do you, the why?
Yeah, I think the thing that really comes to play for us is shared experiences. And backpacking is one of several shared experiences we have here at the school that are also rites of passage. Students do this to earn their place in the schools or earn another level in the school. And you hear students talk about this forever, quite frankly. Decades after they complete the trail, they're coming back talking about the trail, the lessons they've learned from the trail, the individuals that they hike the trail with that they're still in contact with now. And I was just with one of our alums an hour ago who was telling me, I learned so much when we did the trail. I didn't realize it then, but I look back and I realized how many things we did just about myself and how I was able to get through it.
You just got back, didn't you?
We did.
Are you battle worn?
We finished the trail a week and a half ago, 10 days ago or so, and it was a wet, cold week this year. We're getting.
How many students?
Back. This year we had 220 students total out on the trail.
Holy smokes, that's a lot to manage. We would probably think.
Yes.
Taking just a real quick step back, if you don't mind, Father Ed. So you don't know this, but I live in the Minneapolis metro, University of Minnesota. Brakken's in Wisconsin, not far from the University of Wisconsin. So you spent stints in both of these places, it sounds like. My question about this initiative, about this experiential learning. Now, I was born in the 80s. Okay. I wasn't even alive then, Brakken as well. So I don't know this movement, like the origin. And then obviously you spearheaded it here at St. Benedict's, it sounds like. But can you this is like a history lesson. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. So I spent time up in Collegeville, Minnesota, St. John's University.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right up Route 94. And,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the movement, when I got the response, our school had closed in 1972 with no intention of it ever reopening. And we lost 14 men from our monastery. They went to another place, and we were sitting here. So to make a long story short, we decided to try to do some education venture. And at that time, our father, Albert, had just finished his master's degree at Columbia University, Teachers College. And that's where he contacted the experiential education. I had no experience in education at all. I had no degree in education. All I was angry over the fact school closed. And thought it was and the reasons that we gave were not truthful. The reason that the school closed was because of race and racism. So when I got the job of trying to put something together, I had no idea how to do it, except I could create enough energy in people that they would take their talents, pool them, right? So Albert knew stuff about experiential education, and he was the guy that began to infuse it into all the things that we did. So I remember going to a workshop out in Minnesota 53 years ago, probably. And Albert went with me, and Albert got all. I mean, he understood it all because he studied. I have 4 or 5 honorary doctoral degrees, 1 honorary master's degree, 1 honorary bachelor's degree, an honorary high school diploma. And in fact, I wasn't studying all the time, but Albert was. And he was able to put the guts into what it is that we do. And then Father Mark Payne, that we named the center over, he shows up. He's a physicist, Notre Dame graduate, and he had been scoutmaster as well as a Boy Scout. So he brought the structural part to the ideas that Albert had. And I just tried to create the enthusiasm to convince people this is something we really ought to try to do. So that was kind of the history of it. That from Minnesota, Albert had studied this stuff at the Columbian.
I think it's important to note too that we do a lot more in experiential learning than just backpacking. So during the month when we're doing backpacking, all of our students are doing something experiential, right? So some students are taking a photography course for 5 weeks. That's all they do for 5 weeks is learn about how to take good pictures, develop good pictures, produce digitally good pictures, things of that nature. Some are doing architecture. Some are studying the history of St. Benedict's and just doing a project around that, where they're digging into the archives and learning all about how things came to be. We have students doing electronics projects, bridges projects. One of my favorite projects is one, unfortunately, we don't do it anymore, but it was called Downtown Clowns. And one of our adults who was a professional clown on the side for decades came here and taught kids how to be clowns. And so they'd spend 5 weeks learning about being a clown, learning how to do magic tricks, learning how to put a performance together, and learning some of the business behind being a clown. And at the end of the month, they put on a show for the whole rest of the school. So the whole month of May is designed around experiential learning, of which backpacking is a significant part. And a number of our students are also doing community service at that time.
The interesting thing about it, guys, is that it all has an effect on what schools ought to be like now, right? Because education for most of us was built on information. You have adults transmitting information to the students, but you can get any information that you want off of this thing. So what does education need to be like? What do kids need to learn? I think is completely different now than it was when the 4 of us were going through school. So these experiences help to reflect on things like empathy, teamwork, resilience, determination, those kind of things that kids need to learn way more than the facts of we learned when we were kids, way more. So we're working hard at translating our experience with experiential education in the spring and try and make it happen through the entire school year.
That makes sense. Are you guys curious why you're on a running podcast? I just want to know your answer. I'll tell you why, but do you guys are you like, why are we on a running podcast? Did that cross your mind at all?
It certainly crossed mine, yes.
Okay.
Father Ed, you ever been on a running podcast?
I've been on podcasts, but I've been running podcasts, probably not.
Okay. Neither of you are expert runners is what I'm understanding.
I was
Father Ed did run for a long time, yes.
I've ran for years and years, but I do, I'll be 80 at the end of this year, so I do more CrossFit training now.
Okay, maybe we should talk training as well. But okay, so Brakken and I get a lot of emails in our inbox as suggested guests for the show, and most of them are ignored or no's. And when Stephanie got in touch with me about this, one, it just struck like a personal curiosity of mine. Brakken, you were an educator, correct? So I figured it would line up with you, but mostly, so we talk like minute or broad spectrum details with running, how to be a better runner, how to run your best race. We interview subject matter experts and things like that. But our listener base is a very ultra-centric or ultra-curious crowd, meaning our listener base likes to get on the trails and cover miles. And that is relatable because most of these people are trying to absorb information and learn about how to do that better, right? Mm-hmm. And most of them, the intro ultra distance is 31.5 miles. It's a 50K. That's the shortest ultra distance. 50 miles would be another step, then 100K, which is 62. But point being, most of these people are literally like jumping off the ledge going, I don't even know if I can do this. I have no idea. You know, like they are like these kids who are at the start of the Appalachian Trail, have no idea what they're in for. And so I thought that there could be some takeaways because half of our, like a bunch of our listeners have been on the Appalachian Trail. Did we interview Justin? Isn't he run the Appalachian Trail?
We've
Michael
had
Wardian,
Appalachian Trail. We've had Pacific Coast Trail. Yeah.
So I usually walk though. On weekends, I do 14 miles a day on the week walking. I run part of it, but I can't run 14 miles now. But I'm walking regularly every week.
Most people walk chunks of their ultras anyway.
Yes. Most people are walking most of the time on the trail. Let's not kid ourselves.
We have, based on what you said, I'm guessing that you have several listeners who have been through hikers of the Appalachian Trail, meaning they've done all 2,000 miles of it. We run into a number of those through hikers every year, because if you think about the time that most start in March-ish down around Georgia, usually by the fourth week of May, which is when we're doing our 55 miles, many through hikers are passing by us going north as we head south along the Appalachian Trail. So on the average year, we probably run into anywhere between 5 and 15 through hikers passing through New Jersey at the time. So it's a great experience for our kids as well. But every one of those through hikers, especially after they pass the 5th or 6th or 7th group of 10 students, start to say, what's going on here? And gives us a great opportunity for conversation.
I believe it. So like Kirk said, I was a high school special education teacher prior to going all in on running. And we, as a special educator, everything we did was soft skills, life skills, knowledge. Like you said, knowledge can be found anywhere, but accessing it and succeeding in life are two very different things. So we like the idea of this. But one of the things we found with ultra runners is that people that have no desire to do it or no desire for the trails or the mountains come back from their first one different. And they come back knowing that they are better for it, even if they hated every step of it. And generally it's like childbirth where you get done and I'm never going to do this again. And then eventually they realize it has wormed their way into them and they forget a bit of the misery and they seek that peace again. And I can't help but think that that's what you're getting with your students, where there are a lot of lows out there and I can't do this or I don't even want to anymore. But by the end of it, they are different people.
Glenn could really talk about this, but there's no doubt about that because the trail is run by older students. So you have kids that walk it as a freshman. We have students that do it 4 years in a row. Glenn?
Correct. We have, what's interesting is, I say this to our older students all the time. We have more older students who are serving as leaders in the project than most schools would consider taking out to the woods at one time, period. And those are just the leaders. So we have about 60, somewhere between 60 and 70, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, mostly 10th and 11th though, who are serving as the leaders, the instructors. They teach the freshmen the skills that they need to know to get out there. They are the ones who are with the freshmen, some of them while they're hiking. So yeah, it's a big thing for students to want to stay in it. And we have to turn away a number of students that are interested in those roles. So every year I think this year we turned away about 40 to 50 students who were interested in being one of those leaders. We just couldn't take them. We didn't have the room for them. But the other part of the change that you mentioned, share one of my favorite stories with you is we had a student years ago who on the very first day of the hike, he wanted to quit. And the adult that was with his team called me. I don't do the actual hiking anymore because I'm running the whole thing and we're very spread out over sometimes 20 to 30 miles. So I'm in a vehicle doing support with some other folks. And so the adult called me and he said, hey, do me a favor. When we get to the next road crossing, don't be there. Said, the student wants to quit and I don't want him to quit. And if you're there, I think he's going to try to quit. No problem. So I disappeared. I made sure I wasn't there when they got there. And so when they got there, he said, well, you can't stop now. You're going to be left alone. You got to keep walking until we see Cassidy. All right. So they walked to campsite. And we got to campsite and I saw him and it was getting dark. And I got to quit. I got to go home. I can't do this anymore. I said, okay, well, I'm not going to have your parents drive out here in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. So we'll find a time tomorrow. We'll call them. The next day I didn't go to the campsite in the morning. And so the adult again said, well, I guess you have to keep hiking until you see him. And we played this game with him for 3 days, back and forth. And we couldn't, he had to keep going. At the end of the third day, he's walking to the campsite and he saw me and he threw his pack on the ground and he said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. Stop lying to me. You can't make me do this anymore. And I said, okay, no problem. And I took out the map and I laid the map out in front of him. And I said, let me show you something. I said, you started here. You have to finish here. And right now, you're beyond the halfway point here. If you stop now, you're an idiot. So pick your stuff up, get back into your campsite, and finish the hike. And I don't want to hear another word from you. Well, he finished the hike. And when he got to the Delaware Water Gap, which is where we finished the hike, there's a small bridge they cross. And I meet them there. And when he got there, he hugged me and he said, thank you. Now, that student came in completely believing he was incapable of it, but finished knowing that he could do it, right? And that's what we see time and again is the number of students who say throughout, I don't think I can do any more, and yet they keep doing it.
Yeah,
I love it.
There's an interesting thing. I think it's interesting. You do with it what you want, but during the pandemic, everybody in the country was concerned about you'd appreciate what lag in education. How much did kids lose? Did they lose a grade level? Did they lose 2 grade levels? Everybody was talking about that. Not one single person that was related to us in any way asked me a question. The only question they asked me, what about the trail? Did they do the trail? Yeah. That's all they wanted to know. Did they do the trail? And we actually did the trail, correct? Yes.
In 2020, we couldn't do it in 2020, of course. In 2021, we did 2 trails. We did one for the current freshman class, the 2020, 2021 freshman class, and we did one from the freshman class for 2019, 2020, because they didn't get to do it their freshman year. So we did it twice that year.
Go ahead.
No, there's just so few things that you have to see through adversity anymore. And it's why adults seek ultras. It's because we're too good at life and like technology and ease of access. It's too simple, and people need to get themselves into situations that they are in over their head in order to cultivate something you didn't necessarily have prior. And getting that as a freshman is a fantastic way to get a head start on the rest of what you're going to encounter in high school.
Yep. And it's worth noting, our students are not allowed to bring their cell phones or any other communication devices. So they are truly out in the woods, out in nature.
Probably the hardest part of the whole dang thing for them right there.
Absolutely.
They don't have to do it themselves. I did a poor job of setting the stage in the fact of, so at St. Benedict's High School, it is the 9th graders in order to graduate to become an upperclassman exclusively that are required to go on this 55-mile hike as the end of the year culmination. So I must ask 2 questions in regards to this. One, are there exceptions made? Meaning, like, I watched a video you guys had put together, and it was a very well done video, and it was like 98% is still a failing grade when it comes to this one thing, meaning you got to hike the trail. And then 2, I have to imagine an 8th grade boy or girl, a city kid, I have to imagine that's a front part of the curriculum explanation when they are choosing to come to your school as like, hey, your kid is going to be in the middle of nowhere with us as a requirement to graduate classes. So the first thing I want to know is, okay, this is required to be a sophomore, and 2, that conversation up front, those interest me immensely. Can you tell me about those two things?
Yes, it's absolutely a requirement. We have kids that won't come because of that requirement. We have other people who will come thinking, you help me with this, Cass, but thinking that they can negotiate that away. By the time it comes, they cannot. You have to do the trail.
Do you have anybody that seeks you out because of it? Parents are like, my kid, like they're like, I heard about this. This is unique. I want my kid to learn. Suck it up.
You'll see that. You'll see that from fathers, rarely from a mother. The fathers are doing fathers. Would you agree, Cass? The moms are all nervous about it.
Absolutely. There are some moms. There are some that are like, no, I want them to get this experience. Nobody else is going to do this for them. But the upfront conversation, we're very blunt before people even apply. This is what we do. And this is, as I said, one of a number of rites of passage that we have. But this is what we do. Your kid is going to have to hike 55 miles. The rare exception would be somebody that has an extreme medical situation. We have one student right now, for example, who has a seizure disorder that is not controlled. And so we made a conscious decision with the student's parents and the school nurse and all like that this is not the right time for the student to complete it. If something should change in the next couple of years, that student will be asked to do it once they get the situation under control. But other than that, we have other students that are hiking that are diabetics. We have students hike with seizure disorders. It's just ones that are under control at the time. There are students with all kinds of allergies. We have students who, even with physical disabilities, we had one student hiking this year who had a broken collarbone. She broke her collarbone a week before the hike, and still did the trail. We can make certain accommodations with the pack to make it a little less heavy for some in that situation. But yeah, we don't make many exceptions.
What happens with sickness or injury? Is there a makeup date or is it next year?
Yeah. So as I said, I'm one of a team of people that are running support, and we have several older students who are trained as emergency medical responders. So so when we get a report of somebody, we go check it out. We've had a number. If the student is able to be rested and put back on the trail, we'll do that. That's our first goal. If we really can't do that and they need to sit it out, then they'll have to make it up. If they only ended up missing like a day, we'll do a makeup day with them. If they ended up missing most of the hike, then they'll have to do it again next year.
Okay.
We've also sponsored forest fires. You may be interested in that.
We don't talk about that, Father.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody didn't follow instructions. Oh, yeah, we had helicopters dumping water.
Oh, gosh.
So all kinds of things.
I'm proud to say that was before my time.
Well, I have a lot of questions about the preparation and the execution of this, but just from a ex-teacher and coach standpoint, how do you go about ensuring the guidelines are followed to start the hike with contraband and with people trying to circumvent the rules? Is there like an entire kit day where you strip down the kit and make sure that no one's bringing anything along, substances, whatever? How are you, are you segregating out with boys and girls? What is the process for keeping this thing as intended?
So, Cass, you can talk about boys and girls and all that segregation. But at the beginning of the year, Brakken, all of the ninth graders come in and they stay for a week and sleep on the gym floor. And because a lot of our kids that come from such diverse backgrounds and different parts of the city, you may know what that's like. So there's people who live in the north ward of the city and never been in the south ward of their life. So getting them all to begin to depend on one another and know each other. And then the school is run through the entire year by the students, so that we're dealing with real life problems all the time. And how do you address those relative to the responsibility for others? So, Cass, how do you do it on the trail?
Can I just interrupt real quick? Actually, Mike, I'm very curious about this sort of initiation in the beginning of the school year, because it's fascinating. So you like literally for however many days, like they start the school year off cohabitating in the gymnasium, like all complete strangers a lot of times, starting as a freshman class.
Yeah, the guys and girls are separate, but yes, they're guys who've never met
Sure.
each other in their life. The first experience they have is coming in and staying overnight. They can't wear any of our gear until they've earned it, right? So that for that first week, it's super intense. They're here 24 hours a day for 5 days straight. And then through the entire summer fair, we start school at the end of July. The first 5 weeks, they're getting ground up pretty good and they're melted together as a group. So they're broken up into groups of 8. We do a lot of that team kind of building where you have guys now. Cassidy could probably name everybody that was in his group in his freshman overnight when he was a freshman in 1986. You could probably also, Cass, name all the guys that you walked the trail with, right?
I can name my trail group better than my overnight group. There's a couple guys I can't remember from my overnight, but I remember who my leader was. But
So
to your point, Kirk, yes, they start the year. They come in cold. They show up on a Sunday night in July, by the way. We have no air conditioning in our gym. We should mention that. So they show up on a Sunday night in July. They'll come in. There will be 2 or 3 adults around and 150 students. And the adults don't say anything. The students do everything. So the students organize them. They get them going. They give them all their instructions. They tell them what to do. And it is a great way of sending the message that what we do here at St. Benedict's is different. You may all come from different places. You may not know each other, but by the end of this week, you will. And you'll understand a lot about this school and about what's happening. And again, here's a story that'll help you to understand it. Father Ed just said they can't wear our colors or anything like that. In 2008, I want to say it was, Cullen Jones, I don't know if you're familiar with that name, Olympic swimmer, African-American, first African-American world record holder for the 50 freestyle, all like that. He's one of our guys. He graduated from here. And he was swimming in the Olympic Games. Maybe it was 2012. I think it was 2012. He was swimming in the Olympic Games. And it was when the Olympics fell exactly during this overnight week that Father Ed is referring to. So we had the students here, and he qualified on that Wednesday to be in the finals, and he was seeded first to be in the finals of the 50 freestyle. So the student leaders and some of us sat down and we said, this would be a great way to end the week, is for the students to be able to watch this together. So on Friday, the dismissal time for this overnight is supposed to be 3:00, and his race was supposed to be right at 3:00. So we contacted the parents and we said, we're going to delay the dismissal because we want the students to be part of this. But parents, you're welcome to come and join us for this. And we streamed it into the auditorium, and many did. When the students came in, these are students that had never met each other 5 days earlier. The students that knew nothing about the school 5 days earlier. And they knew nothing about this guy on the screen other than he went through all the same experiences that they were going through now. When that race started, the noise level in that auditorium was deafening. The students were cheering so loudly. And Cullen ended up winning the silver medal by, I think, a couple hundredths of a second, something like that. And it looked like he won, of course. And when he touched, people went crazy. And then it showed that he came up in second, and it was amazing. The room went instantly silent as everybody was kind of dumbfounded at what just happened, and then exploded again in the celebration that this guy just won the silver medal. But the point for me is that 5 days earlier, they knew nothing about any of this. And now they were willing to scream their heads off in excitement about somebody that they've never met, but just has done the same things they were doing.
That's pretty cool. I have to imagine there's a good bit of chaos and resistance initially. We're going to get to the trail after this, but this is just very intriguing to me. So first of all, I have a feeling it's parents saying, kid, you're going to go here. And they're going to be like, I have to go live in a gymnasium with strangers. That can't be a happy group of kids. I would imagine, coming in. Is that not fair assumption?
No, Kirk,
For the most part.
You got this thing figured right out.
I
Right.
got nothing figured out. I only have questions. I don't have any
There's
answers.
a lot of kids come to school here because their parent makes them come.
Is it because
but
they
if
need
you-
to straighten up? Is that why these kids are getting sent there? Because these are
Rick,
kids
what-
who
what-
inherently have poor behavior choices?
we have a history in town now that people have a lot of confidence, I think, in the place, and we also have a history. So now we've been doing it for so long that we have the children of guys who have done it before them, and but if you can't translate your mother or your father's, usually your mother's, desire for you to be here into your own desire, long term it won't work. So kids will wind up leaving. If they can't become a part, and the only reason they're here is because their mother's making them, it won't carry you through 4 years, not with all the stuff that we're asking them to do. Because in addition to what you're hearing today about the overnight in the water and the backpack, we also have this unbelievable water challenge. We have a pool and then we have another thing out for the 11th. It's for 10th graders, the water challenge. 11th graders that are doing a 36-hour evolution out in the woods with a former Navy SEAL operator. So I mean, there's a lot of adversity challenges that kids do, and then they have an opportunity to reflect on how well they did, what their leadership was, what their followership was, those kind of things. So if you can't buy in usually by, what would you say, Cass, a year and a half, halfway through your 10th grade, if you haven't bought in, you're probably going to fall out.
How do you get away with this? Because as you know, as an educator, half of what you do is complain about the educational system. But if we could just blank, we'd solve half our problem. Well, this seems like a lot of the things you'd want to do. Like there's a basic training element to this. It's a bit militaristic. It's a bit of the athletics world combined in. It's a lot of old school. But how is this sustainable and allowable right now?
Don't tell the
Interestingly-
insurance companies that we do it.
That's right.
Our secret.
It's the confidence that parents have in us, in the place, is what allows us to do it. For another example of it would be kids, African American kids of color in general are 5 times more likely to drown than their white counterparts. So we try to teach all of our kids how to be able to survive in the water. And the number of parents that will come, because they can come and watch any of the training at any time, the number of parents that will start to cry watching their kids in the water, and adversity situations. I mean, the Navy SEAL will turn them upside down, suck them to the bottom of the pool, and they're wearing a mask that they can't see out of, so they're disoriented. Parents will cry and say, "Father, I can't swim." And I'm so glad he or she is learning how to be able to defend themselves in the water. And the number of people from island nations who can't swim, it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. So people from Jamaica, all through the Caribbean, and they used to go fishing all the time. Couldn't swim. They were out in the boat. I mean, it's crazy. So they're really supportive of those kind of adversity challenges that we do. Really supportive of. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do it.
So just for context, let's say a traditional, I don't know, public school in Minnesota, maybe it's 3%, 1 to 3% experiential learning. I have no idea. I remember some of the things I remember from middle school and high school were actually out in the field. They took us somewhere and we did something, right? Like that, versus like the classroom days all blend together and the stuff I learned is long gone, right? For the most part, and other than what I've specialized in now in my adulthood, right? What would you say the percentages of experiential learning there versus traditional learning?
Glenn, what do you?
I'd probably say it's about a quarter of what we do, maybe a little bit more. We still teach our traditional English, history, math, science classes. That's all there. It's just we've incorporated this as much as possible. And I should mention that even with those classes, so it probably is more, it's probably closer to 35 or 40%. Because even with those classes, we've tried to do a lot more where they can get real experience in one way or another. So whether it's an English class that's writing, that has everybody writing with the idea of trying to get published in something, or if it's science classes that are doing all types of experiments and going out and doing testing in the field and things like that. So we have tried to amplify the experience, but we keep talking about how to do even more of that.
I was at a school, Kirk, I was at a school yesterday. It's 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's in Newburgh, New York, right up Hudson River. The entire curriculum of the school is built on the river. So what the kids read is about the rivers. And most every major city in the world is built where it was built because of water. But their whole curriculum is built, and they're out of the classroom most of the time. That's where I believe we need to get, is to build, because just sitting on information all the time and a chronological view of history is a waste of time. Kids gotta remember, it's not going to affect life. But if you can build it around things that can get kids excited and around experiences that they can reflect on, even if they don't want to do the experience, but they can manage to accomplish it, all of that you can learn from. So we're really interested here now, and your question is a great one. I'd like to see us build the whole thing on experiential education all year long. Yesterday was a big help for me because thinking about building it on based on the river, what they read in English, what they write in the history class, this all comes off the influence of the river and rivers.
Fascinating. I want to dive into a quick story, and then Brakken, we should get to the trail, huh?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I don't know. This whole 98% is still a failure thing sticks with me. Brakken, we had a conversation about this on the podcast, and this is probably so irrelevant to this, but I had a person I'd worked with like professionally that was a former Phi-Ed teacher, like a gym teacher. And he was older, and let's just call it whatever old school mentality you would like to take that as, just not of new age, like all inclusive, like everybody gets a participation trophy mentality, we will call it. And so he actually had a hard time with the system because he had said, well, like your math test, you either get the problem right or you get it wrong, and then you get a grade based on your results. And his philosophy was, well, the same should apply to Phi-Ed. If you are the fastest kid who runs the mile, you should get the best grade. And if you are last, you should get the worst grade, even if you tried hard. And that's a rough way to look at it, right? But he was like, if we're grading you on your performance in every other class, why would you not do that in physical education? You could understand at least somebody might think that way. Very contradictory, because the kid who tries hard still gets an A these days, and I think that most would support that. But like, what I'm getting at, is there a take like that on the trail or not? Is it how you get to the finish line doesn't matter? We get you there regardless. There isn't really a grade. It's more a ceremonious, you've done it. But that, like, this particular gym teacher's mentality, does any of that, how you do anything is how you do everything. So how the kid does this, does any of that matter? What do you do with that is what I'm getting at.
There is a grade that goes on the transcript for this experience. Yes.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yes, there is. We made a conscious decision a long time ago to say that if a student finishes the 55 miles, they pass one way or another. They pass. They may pass with a D if they didn't do anything else properly, but they're going to pass if they walked off that trail.
What'd you give that kid that you had to coerce into the finish line? What'd you give him?
That's a great question. My guess is he got somewhere in the C range.
Okay.
And that's because of, and we'll get into the training, but that's because of there are tests they take in the training. There are other things they do in the training and all like that. And they have to be properly prepared. And then the other aspect of it is how well they cooperate with their teammates, things like that. All of that gets factored into their actual grade. But excuse me, but they can walk off. But if they can walk off the trail, they have passed the ultimate goal. They've completed the ultimate goal. So,
which allows them, therefore, to become, when you're in your first year here in school, or until you walked off the trail, you're considered a beginner. So you're not a full member of the community until you finish the trail. So as long as you finished the trail, or whether you did well, whether you excelled, or whether you didn't, you can become a member. Therefore, the members, you can tell the members in the school because they dressed from the beginners. So you can tell right away when you walk in the building who are the beginners and who are members. And the members, the leadership comes out of the members.
Kirk, one other point on that. We had a phys ed teacher a few years ago who he's since moved on, but he tested the kids each semester on their ability to complete an obstacle course. And there were several challenges. I think there was 9 or 11 challenges, I don't know, in the obstacle course. And they would do it at the beginning of the semester. They would do it in the middle of the semester, do it at the end of the semester. And their grade was based on improvement, right? So it wasn't so much who had the best. It was if they had a time limit, right, on how long they could do it. If at the beginning of the semester, you could only go through 2 rotations of this obstacle course, and at the end of the semester, you can go through 8, we're measuring your improvement based on that. And I don't remember how specifically he broke that down, but to your point about, like, it's not always who's the most athletic. It's about how much effort have you put forth.
So when people come to us and ask to train them for an ultra, one of the questions we often get is, well, when should we get started? How much time do I need? And my answer is generally like right now. The soonest we can get started, the better.
Yesterday.
No one ever got to race day and thought, I wish I'd spent a little less time preparing for this. So with your incoming 9th graders, when does the physical, and I guess all of it, mental, the plan, the soft skills associated, when does the preparation begin for this trail?
Right away.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to answer that question. From my standpoint, I already have a 2026 backpacking folder going and a number of things already completed for next year's hike. As soon as I walk off this one, I start the next one. But from the student standpoint, we tell them as soon as they come in, hey, listen, this is coming at the end of the year, so you ought to think about it. We don't do anything formal with them right away, but we tell them to plan for it. They do take phys ed classes. Most of our students are involved in some sort of athletics throughout the year, so that helps them a lot because they're involved in physical training throughout the year. And then we start the soft skills part of it. We start doing things in January and February. That's when we select all the leaders. That's when the students get to select, the 9th graders get to select who's going to be in their team. They have a team of about eight people, and they get to select who's in that team for the most part. So we'll do that at that time. And then we start meeting with them to talk about aspects of leadership, to talk about aspects of teamwork, to select who's going to take on different roles. So within the team, a couple of students will be the cooks, and a couple of students will be the navigators, and a couple of students will be the first aiders, and somebody's a captain, and somebody's a camping specialist. So within each team, students have designated roles with the idea that the team has to rely on each other. In theory, we should be able to take these students and drop them off on day 1 at High Point here in New Jersey. That's where we start the hike. In theory, we should be able to take these students and their team of 8, drop them off on day 1 at High Point and say, we'll see you in 5 days. And they should have everything they need between the 8 of them in terms of training and in terms of equipment and all like that to be self-sufficient for the entire week. Obviously, for numerous reasons, we don't do that, but in theory, they should be able to do that. And then the physical training begins. We don't do too much of that. We start that in late April, and they get about 3 or 4 weeks of physical training before the actual hike.
What does that look
We're
like?
gonna-
It's a lot of there's a lot of running, a lot of stairs, a lot of squats. But it's all body weight stuff, a lot of cross training type of ideas. We don't do anything too crazy. They spend probably about somewhere between an hour and 2 hours out of the day doing physical components in addition to all the other skills that we're doing.
How much is there designed to prepare them for carrying the pack?
Yeah. So they start carrying a pack. The project starts, they have 3 weeks of training in the project before they go on the actual hike. And we start making them carry stuff pretty much on day 1 or day 2. Even if at that point, sometimes it'll be weights in the backpack, or it'll be 2-liter bottles that are filled. You have to carry 2 or 3 2-liter bottles in your backpack just to get used to carrying some weight around. And so they'll do that everywhere they go for those couple of weeks. And then we take them on a practice hike. 10 days before they go on the actual hike, they go on a 2-day, 3-day practice hike where they're getting used to being in the woods, but it's in a more controlled environment. It's in an area that is a little bit more contained, and we have more control over where they're going. So
where they're going or where they're going when they shouldn't be going that way, right?
correct.
We've had kids on the trail from the very first. As Glenn said earlier, we walked south, right, from High Point to the Delaware Water Gap. From the very first steps they took, they were going north. Now, no adult is going to set check. So they have to figure it out, or when they start passing signs for Massachusetts or something. But you can ask questions, but you can't send you going the wrong way. The adults can't do it. So it's all in the hands of the kids, as is the operation of the school is the same way. And when you're dealing with people that are mentally impaired because their brains aren't fully developed yet, you get some crazy computations. So when you talk to them, what were you thinking? Well, it's a stupid question because they don't think the same way we do. That's what Glenn was talking about. There's adults in certain places, so you don't have a disaster. Anything short of a disaster, the adults are not.
And to be fair, adults make terrible decisions when they're tired too.
Also,
people quit races, go the wrong way, forget to eat constantly. So it's challenging to begin with.
It's also important to note that not every team has an adult hiking with them. They might have an older student, but they don't all have adults hiking with them. So
is this mass start, or do you send teams out staggered?
So we stagger it. It's all staggered. So each team is supposed to hike independently.
That makes it more understandable why someone could start north.
Correct. We stagger them about 15 minutes apart when they're hiking, so that they're not supposed to hike together. If they do catch up, they're supposed to split up again. But we also stagger the hike over days. So our girls, for example, leave on Saturday and they hike until Wednesday. Half of our boys, because we have twice the number of boys than we do girls. Half of the boys leave on Sunday and hike until Thursday, and the other half leave on Monday and hike until Friday. So over those days, they won't see each other because they're always a day ahead of the other groups. But that's why I say that as a project, sometimes we're spread out over about 25 to 30 miles, because those students that started on Sunday are way ahead of the students that started, or Saturday are way ahead of the students that started on Monday.
Are they allowed to exceed the schedule?
No.
Get ahead?
No. And that's based on campsites, right? We, because we're so large, we stay at private campgrounds, so we're not doing any additional harm to the state forests or to shelter sites along the trail. So we stay at private sites, and therefore we're kind of limited to where we can go and when we have to be there.
We had great cooperation over these 50-some years from the Appalachian Trail Conference as well, because typically they're not allowing that large a group to be in this more or less the same area of the trail. So Father Mark first, and then Glenn now, we've done a lot to create a real cooperation between us and the trail conference. So they allow us to do it.
Okay. You are only as strong as your weakest link. Let's talk about that. So if you're going out as a group of runners and you have a 15-minute mile runner and a 6-minute mile runner, but they are supposed to be doing this together, that causes problems. People are feeling held back and people are feeling drug along, and it's rare that everybody's feeling that we're working appropriately, right? An easy hike for one, which you have athletes on your roster, is walk in the park. Many kids these days are not athletes and they are not physically conditioned to do such inherently. How do you deal with that? Is that part of the let's see it play out situation? Like, how do you navigate that? Because do you put groups together that would make sense based on what you perceive as physical abilities or not? Like, where does that lie?
The kids put the groups together. And one of the things from the time you walk in to that overnight, the beginning of your freshman year, all the way through the time here, you hear over and over again, kids are being told, give up what you want for what we need. So it's creating a community mentality, a team mentality in the kids. So yeah, guy who can run a 4-minute mile has got to figure out what's he willing to give up in order to get the person who's barely running through. That's the key. That you can't leave anybody behind. Now remember, you got to remember who we are. We're a school mostly of kids of the African dispersion and Latin America. So what we work super hard at is amplifying voice, because a lot of these kids, as well as their parents, don't think their voice matters in this country right now. So amplifying voice and being able to get everybody through. So it doesn't matter if it's not nearly as beneficial if there's only one of you out there in whatever field you are. You got to get numbers out there. So figuring out a way to get everybody through is really, really important. So in that sense, the backpack project, the overnight, the water challenge is not a race at all. It's an effort of building team in adversity.
Part of the training, they do a bunch of what we call team challenges or initiative games, where the team has to work together to overcome some obstacle that's relatively contained. It's right here at the school, but they have to do that. That's part of the training. They do that every day of the training. The other part of the training is that there's a team captain, as I mentioned, a student that's responsible for his or her team. And we meet every day and talk about how to deal with those types of situations. So how do we deal with the challenging student? How do we deal when there's a fight in the team, when people are arguing with one another, when one person feels like they're taking on too much work and the other person doesn't care? And so we start talking about a lot of aspects of conflict resolution and motivational techniques and things like that with the students to allow them to be able to solve their own issues.
So what are some of the major problems that they have to deal with while they're out there? What are some of the stories? What are they figuring out? What are some of the not like the we're not going to talk like the defeats, but like I want to hear about the wins and all of that, of course. But like what are some of the struggles? What are they encountering?
The first struggle for most of them is just being in that environment. Right? Our kids are not used to it. A student several years ago, we were out there and he said, well, aren't there crazy people out here? Like murderers and things like that. And I said, where do you live? And he told me his address here in Newark. And I said, weren't people shot outside of your building last week? And he said, yeah, but that's different. And so the first struggle for folks is just taking them to a different environment and helping them to understand that they can be okay in that environment, right? The second one is completely psychological. And we say to the students when they select teams all the time, we say, be careful who you select in your team. Because the person who's your best friend now may not be your best friend by the end of this project, right? Because they seem like they're a lot of fun. They play around all the time. We have a great time. And now it's time to get work done. Now somebody has to go walk, a quarter mile to go get water. And you've done it the last 2 times, and now he doesn't want to do it. Guess what? That's not much of a friend anymore, right? So having to navigate that with one another. I will tell you, some of the students that actually have great experiences are ones that intentionally do not select their own group, and they say, just put me with anybody. And then they have to figure out how to navigate a group of people that they may or may not know very well. They all know each other somewhat, but they may not spend time with these other students. And I've heard several people say, like, that was a difficult decision to do, but a great decision because I made new friends, or I figured out things about myself that I learned how to deal with people differently and interact in a different way. So those things are critical. We had one girl this year. We had several girls that were struggling during one of our practice hikes and with what seemed to be some medical things. And one girl passed me by and she was in tears. She was only about 5 minutes away from the road and it was pouring rain, but she was in tears. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, hurt my ankle. I hurt my ankle. And I think I'm letting my team down. And I said, all right, well, just get to the road. And when you get to the road, we can check you out. Go to the road. We're about 5 minutes away. So we got to the road and some of it didn't seem good. So we ended up calling and sending her home. It turns out she actually broke her foot. But she was a trooper. She made it to the road, right? But what was her biggest concern? She said, I was letting my team down. So we were able to get her taken care of. But everybody's got a different story, right? Because then I had other students that they see a tick someplace and they say, I'm dying, I need to go home. So it's every student is different, and the challenge for us is how to meet the students where they are and help them to understand that they can still do it.
So what's your finisher rate?
98, 99%, maybe higher. It's very few students don't complete it. I think this year there were 3 that we ended up having to send home because of one was very, very sick, not related to the trail. They just got sick before they came to the trail and couldn't shake it. And then the one I mentioned with a broken foot, and another one had a history of a couple of surgeries and now was feeling some pain related to those surgeries. So we didn't want to take another chance. But everybody else finished it.
Okay. How often do you have students afterwards decide to go back and do that section differently or further sections of the trail independently?
It's funny you say that because we have our names for sections of the trail, things that we refer to them as, but you'll never find it on a map. One of them is a place we call gas, that's station gas on the trails where we put a checkpoint. But so that's what everybody comes to know it as. One student, the weekend they got home this year from the hike, one student emailed me and he said, I was telling my parents that we had to go check out Gas Mountain, but I looked at the map and I couldn't find it anywhere on the map. Where is Gas Mountain? Well, won't find Gas Mountain on the map because that's not what it's called. But I went on to explain to him. But I found it curious that 2 days after he got off this trail, he's telling his parents, we have to go hiking on this section of the trail. A number do, let's be clear, a number of students come home, burn their boots, throw away their stuff and say, I'm never, ever, ever going near the trail again. But we also have students that have done this and then gone on to careers in in the wilderness field. So it's both. But there are a number of them that tell us, I've gone back and gone hiking. I do this part of it. I do that part of it.
So they get done. I guess any other wins out on trail that come to mind, just like things that, I don't know, proud dad moments, we'll call it, proud teacher moments, proud Like any situations that come to mind that have occurred that they've had to overcome that you can think of? Curious.
Here's what is interesting. One of our guys is actually his older brother is on faculty now, but their dad died within the last 18 months, and I went to the viewing to the wedding. As I arrived, he met me and he said, "Fuck, you just missed my trail group." Now, who says that? I mean, my teammates came. Nobody ever says my geometry class just came to my father's wedding. But this kid says, "You just missed my trail group." He had walked the trail probably 15 years before. And those guys are still melting together as a result of that adversity challenge, right? Experience that they had when they were kids. That always impresses me. How many guys can name the people that they walked it with, name the challenges that they had while they were out there. And this is 10, 15, 20, could be 30 or 40 years later now for some of them. So it's a formative experience for our students. I think the guys more and more will discover it with the girls. Girls have only been doing it for about 4 years. Because we never had girls at the high school level. The girls broke into the place without plan or without any adult invitation. They concocted the whole thing with our guys to start a girls' division when two girls' schools closed. So I think you'll see the things that happen with the girls is more and more of a history with the trip.
So then they finish, after like an athlete runs an ultra or any race, there's sort of digest it all and then maybe have some reflection. You said there's like an exit sort of like takeaway, I don't know, like assignment or something. So what are the big takeaways? What do you commonly hear from students or uncommonly hear from students who, whether they want to or not, just hiked 55 miles on the trail?
Yes, you can comment on what you hear, but what's really important for kids, because their brains aren't completely developed, the ability to reflect on themselves. They can reflect on their parents. They can reflect on teachers. My mother's a pain in the neck. This teacher stinks. They can do that. But reflecting on themselves and their own performance is a little bit more difficult for them at a high school age. So Cass gets them to write about the experience. I remember when Father Mark was running the project, he used to hang on to the reflections and give them back to the kids 3 or 4 years later to look at. So Cass, what is that? What happens?
Yeah, so at the end of the project, they write a paper, roughly 2.5 pages. They're supposed to write what I learned about myself on the Appalachian Trail. They also keep a journal throughout the hike, what they're experiencing and what they're feeling. And then we do some debriefing sessions with them here at school. So older students or adults will sit with the team and ask a bunch of questions designed around getting them to think and reflect. And then they fill out some personal questionnaires as well, designed around getting them to think and reflect. And the easy part is, people saying, I didn't think I could do this for one reason or another, whether I didn't think I could physically do it or I was very afraid of being out in the woods and now I'm not as much. Or I remember 2 years ago, one of the girls came to me beforehand and I don't know why, but she ended up in it. I don't know if she maybe didn't select a team or something, but she wasn't comfortable with the team she was with. She kept trying to get me to change the teams, and we won't do that. Once you're in a team, you're in a team. But it's going to be horrible. They're going to throw me off a cliff. I'm not going to survive. I promise you, you're going to have a problem. You'll be okay. And she came back afterwards and said, oh, thank you. She said, I actually have a new friend now, somebody I wasn't really friends with before. And so simple things like that we hear about. But we also hear about, to Brakken's question before, we also hear about some people saying, I could see myself doing this again, or I could see myself, taking some more hikes in the future. Some of the learnings we hear, I wish I had listened more to the instructors. especially I mentioned we just got off the trail, and this year was very wet, very, very wet. And when we went out on the practice hike, it was very wet. And we teach the students about packing your things in plastic bags and double bagging them and all of these things to keep your things dry so that you have dry clothes to come on. Well, when we came home from the practice hike, nobody had anything dry. And so now we have a week to make it up. And one of the nice parts was we had a lot of rain on the actual hike this year. And when I looked at kids and said, well, do you have anything else dry to put on? Most kids said yes, because they did listen. When they realized they didn't listen the first time, after the experience, they listened. So we actually like it when it rains on their practice hike, because it gives us, we're in a more controlled environment, and it allows the kids to see what they need to prepare better for later. We also hear from the students who talk about learning about leadership and the ability to, especially the guys that were captains, the ability to motivate people in their team, or to comfort those that were struggling. And so that's a big learning that a lot of people walk away with as well.
The interesting point Brakken mentioned at the very beginning of our discussion today, we have kids that'll come off the trail and say, or even finish the overnight at the beginning of freshman year. Coming off the trail, they'll say, I'm never doing that again. And they'll stick with that for a while, but then when it comes time for to be a leader the following year, some of those same kids that swore they'll never go on the trail again wind up volunteering to be leaders on. Kids will go home and after the overnight at the beginning of the year, go home and tell their parents, I'm not going back there. I'm done. And their mothers will usually say, well, just give it one more day. So they go back one more. And before you know it, they're running the overnight a year later. So that's absolutely happened with those experiences too. Never do it again. And then they wind up doing it again year after year after year.
And then I'll just give you asked about wins. So I'll tell you about two other kids this year. Both kids wanted to quit. Both kids wanted to quit. One of them wanted to quit purely because of attitude. Just didn't want to do it. No other reason, perfectly physically capable, all like that. Just didn't want to be bothered. The other kid was convinced the entire week that he was hurt. The one who had the attitude issue on the middle of day 2 sat down in the parking lot and said, I'm not going any further. And I happened to get there. I was going there just to pick up water jugs that we had left there for them. And one of the commanders, one of the older students, said, Cass, you may need to talk to him because he's saying he's not going to go any further. And I said, well, I've got other places to be. And I used a line that I stole from Father Ed. I said, and since this is the last team coming through here for this year, tell him he can wait till next year. And if we come back this way next year, we'll pick him up and he can go home back. But I'm not saying, and I drove off. And after, I don't know, 10 or 15 more minutes, they finally got the kid up and walking. I was then told that pretty much after that moment, he not only changed course in terms of not complaining anymore, he became the guy that was helping other guys through. When other guys were struggling, he was motivating them. He was encouraging them constantly. And so I don't know what it'll mean for this kid long term. I looked at him when we got back here last week and I said, have you thought about what happened last week? And he said, kind of. And I said, you need to, because you made a significant turnaround. So you need to think about what it means for you. So he finished it. The other kid all week long was telling us he was hurt. Now, I'm also an emergency medical technician, and we have a number of people on the trail that are wilderness advanced first aiders and things like that. So we're prepared to deal with a lot of injuries. I checked out the kid. Several other people checked out the kid. We could find no indication of an injury anywhere. So we kept encouraging him just day after day. And this was another kid that kept saying, I'm going to quit. You can't make me. Come on, let's go. Just go. Let's just get to the next site. Let's just get to the next site. And he finished it. This is what we want, right? This is what the ultimate goal of the project is for exactly this kid. The worst punishment we could give this kid was to make him finish the trail. That was the worst punishment in the world. But forever, he's going to be able to look back on that and say, I kept being convinced I couldn't, and I did. And that's what we always want them to do. And that's what we remind them of frequently. When you get to that point in physics class where you're like, this is overwhelming, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, remember when you said that on the trail? Let's figure this out. And you can kind of continue to encourage them.
Getting kids to realize, just do it today. It's like running a race. If you're running a long race, if you're starting to think about the finish line, you'll start to play with your head. But if you feel differently, even though the race is harder in the second half, you feel differently because it's the second half. So you can motivate yourself to push harder. I'm getting close to it. To swallow an elephant in small bites is what we try to do. Just do this. Do the morning. If you make it to noontime, then do the afternoon. That's the secret to life. All we have is today. Yesterday's gone. The kids' eyes roll to the back of their head when I say this to them. They start talking about, I have to do this tomorrow. I said, tomorrow is an illusion. Tomorrow is an illusion. If you wake up tomorrow, what's it going to be? They look today. That's right. So you never get to tomorrow. All you have is to do just do this part of the race. Then but it's hard to convince kids. That's what we work at trying to convince them of all the time. People stop. You've seen guys stop races, right? Or women stop races because it just gets in there. Could have trained perfectly, fit, it's like all ready for the race, but then your head takes you out at certain points if you allow it. That's what the point of the trail is. Mm-hmm. So to learn to be able to fight your way through, even though you want to stop, helps you as you get to be an adult and you're dealing with your 4 kids who have one problem or another. You can't stop on them. You on them, just do it.
Yeah. There's that old concept in the ultra world that you don't quit on the stool. You get to the aid station, you've convinced yourself if I just make it there, I can be done. You get in there, you sit down, and standing up seems impossible. And the crew's only job is get out of the aid station. You can come back if you can't do it, but you got to at least, you can't quit sitting down. You have to quit on your feet. And as I'm sure you see, more often than not, you get up enough times and you realize, well, I wasn't really ready to quit that time. I guess maybe I'm not ready to quite quit this time. And then you're almost done.
Yeah.
Yep. Almost done.
You say don't quit on the stool. I say don't die in the chair.
Either or, yeah. I quitting on the stool, that's like a boxing thing.
Yeah.
Make them throw the towel in, but you can't quit sitting down.
Yep. And I bet you that kid who you had to convince to get going, I bet you he boasts about what he did to other people more than the kid up front who had it easy from the start and had a good attitude about it. I bet you that kid and the injured kid talk about it more and what they accomplished. And when you don't want to do something and you end up doing it, those are probably, let's say you got 200 kids and 190 of them are impacted only slightly one way or the other, but you have those 10 that had a crap attitude and didn't want to or didn't think they could, and they get there. I feel like even those are probably the ones, right, that it resonates the most with, and he ends up being the most proud, or she. Yeah, I imagine you would find that eventually.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you frequently see in tears when they cross the bridge at the end of the water gap, at the end of the hike, or like you say, bragging to people, and again, some of it, when you're dealing with 14 and 15-year-olds, some of it doesn't hit them right away.
Yeah.
But they talk about it later. And we just had our graduation here last Sunday, and there were a number of students here. A lot of our alums like to come to graduation, and even some of the current students like to come to graduation to see the seniors graduate. There were probably 5 or 6 guys here on Sunday who did not finish at St. Benedict's. They didn't graduate from here. They're still in high school. But because they did the overnight and the trail, they feel completely connected to the place. And they said they had to be here because one guy said, I had to be here because my trail commander was graduating. So they get, or my overnight counselor, whatever. So they get completely connected to their leaders and they feel a complete part of the place. So even though they didn't graduate from here, even though they're at another school, they're still showing up to events here because they believe they're as much a part of the place as anybody that still goes here.
And at graduation, nobody, the student speakers, every year, I've been doing this before you guys were even thought of. Nobody at graduation talks about English class or history class, math class. Everybody talks about the math. Every single year, speakers talk about it. Correct, Cass? Every year, backpack comes and their experience out on the trail.
Type 2 fun lasts. That's what it is. Type 2 fun lasts. I have a couple. We're going to let you go here shortly. I have a couple questions that I just got to ask. Just really, you can answer them quickly. Brakken, if you have any pop up. That age is a very insecure bunch. Somebody's got to poop. What do they do? That's a weird situation out in the woods. What happens then?
Every team gets a shovel. They get their 6-inch spade and they go dig a cat hole and they make it work in the woods. We teach them how to do it.
But that's like a shameful thing. Like, hey, Jimmy, I got to poop. Give me the shovel. Like that's all. It's all good. That's no problem.
You're going to get me started on another conversation, but I won't. But
please.
We've worked really hard here at school in a lot of ways to eliminate that word shame and stigma around things, right? So we have a thriving counseling office, and 40% or more of our students go through the counseling office every year and talk publicly about the fact that they go to counseling. So we've worked really hard to eliminate the stigma around mental health. We work really hard to eliminate stigmas around different things. So with this, it becomes very blunt, hey, who's got the shovel? I need the shovel. I'll be, I even find it fascinating with the girls who have absolutely no issue walking up to me, or even some of the teenage boys that are working with me and saying, I'm on my cycle. I need some products. What do you have? Listen, this is just a fact of life. This is what we do. So yeah, how to poop in the woods. There's a great book out there called How to Shit in the Woods. So
they say don't be a surface shitter. So it's good you have a shovel.
That is right. You have to have the shovel. Now I will say, 2 of the sites we stay at do have working bathrooms, so they do get a little bit of a break now. Some of our alums are going to be mad when they hear that because they didn't, but they do have a break on 2 of the nights where they can use an actual toilet.
Hygiene.
Yeah.
What's the protocol there? Girls are particular, boys are particular. That's like I said, an insecure age. Yeah. In general, that's a big deal. Kids are wearing like full makeup now at 13 and running around. I mean, that's got to be a situation.
The experience we've had in the last 2 years is that bonnets are extremely popular with boys and with girls in the woods. We see bonnets everywhere to cover up the locks or the twists or whatever hair is going on. Lots and lots of kids are wearing bonnets. But hygiene, it's, they do bring their toothbrush, toothpaste. They bring usually some wet wipes with them to be able to wipe themselves down. But other than that, it's pretty much all there is. We discourage them from bringing a lot of smellable things because we do have animals out there in the woods, and we don't want to deal with any more than we need to. And we tell them up front, listen, you're going to be dirty and stinky at the end of the week. Get over it. And they do. They do.
Last one I want to know is food, snacks. Kids are picky eaters. I'm not gonna. What's the protocol there?
Yeah. And actually, I mentioned earlier, we had a couple of medical things going on with girls, and 2 of the medical things were girls that were extremely weak because they had not eaten for 24 hours because they didn't like the food. I'm probably a little too cold when it comes to that because my response is get over it. Unless you're allergic to it or it's a religious objection that you can't eat certain things, you better eat what's there, or you're going to have this experience of passing out. We try to do team meals, so they get macaroni and cheese or spaghetti and a simply made sauce. They have like rice and tuna and stuff like that, but it's all stuff that they can prepare and eat as a team. So the idea is still to keep that team concept going. We asked the families ahead of time for any allergies or religious exemptions, and we accommodate for that. And then, but everything else is in the mornings. They have their choice of cereal with powdered milk, or we always give them a hot option as well in case it's a cold year like this one. So they have some oatmeal or something along those lines. For lunch, it's something easy that you can eat on the go, like peanut butter and jelly and crackers, or tuna fish and crackers, or something like that. And then, like I say, dinner is going to be like a mac and cheese or a spaghetti or something. We try to mix it up to make sure they have enough protein and carbs in them while they're working.
The lore that gets built up around that is great, because they'll talk 30 years later, talk about when so-and-so, who was the cook for their group, screwed up the dinner on the third night, right? Guy's still getting 30 years later over the fact he screwed up dinner on the third night of the hike. The stories are crazy. Go on.
Here's one of them. So years ago, we gave the teams crackers and tuna fish for lunch. But recognizing that there were some kids that didn't want tuna fish, we gave them honey as well. So they could either eat the crackers with honey or the crackers with tuna fish. That was the idea. Somebody, I don't know who and I don't know how, somebody decided one day to mix the tuna fish with the honey. Sounds disgusting to me. But somebody decided to mix the tuna fish with the honey. From that day forward, for years and years and years, honey and tuna fish became the lunch of choice on the trail, because they passed it down from one, oh, you got to try the tuna and honey. You got to try the tuna and honey. And everybody would talk about it on the trail. Oh, the honey and tuna is the greatest thing in the world. Then the best part is I'd have guys come back to me a year later and go, I tried that at home. That's nasty. But on the trail, they loved it.
That sounds about right.
Well,
Brakken, do you have any other questions, burning questions?
No question. Just cements in my mind that this is why everyone, athlete or not, needs an arduous physical task periodically in their life. You need to do something harder than you're capable of, or at least knowing that you're capable of, periodically. It grounds you and it releases you at the same time.
Correct.
I love that they're getting it young in formative years.
I agree with that. Never comes back and bites you, does it? You hear from mom the next day yelling at you?
Very rarely. Every now and then, like the injury thing or something like that, somebody will say, hey, how'd this happen? Well, they were hiking. What do you expect? One year we had somebody that ended up being severely dehydrated, and we didn't know it, ended up in the hospital after the trail. But again, a big part of what we do here is try to teach personal responsibility to the students. So we are very intentional with them and with their parents about saying, we're not going to watch you eat and watch you drink, and we're going to tell you what you need to do. But then you're a big boy now or a big girl now. Do it for yourself. Make it happen. And so if we become aware that something's not happening, obviously we'll step in. But in that case, he was perfectly fine while he was with us, and then ended up being extremely weak on the weekend. His mom took him to the hospital, and they said he was severely dehydrated. And then mom was mad at us. But after we sat down and talked, it all worked out fine.
That's a good lesson learned right there, is what that is. You won't forget that one. Okay, so then I guess the last question is there other programs in the country, if people are interested, or is there any brother or sister type organizations or schools? Obviously, not everybody lives where you do in Newark. Or if people want to just, I don't know, check out what you guys have done, would you direct anybody anywhere that has a curiosity about this?
So there are other schools that do outdoor things. I don't think most do it to the degree that we do. But I will say, for example, there's a school, I'm not sure the name of the school, but from Pennsylvania, they work with, you mentioned Outward Bound before. Outward Bound is still an organization that does a lot of these trips. This school works through Outward Bound to conduct a few days experience out in the woods for their students. We work with an organization here in New Jersey called Project Use, where Use stands for Urban Suburban Environments. And they partner with a number of schools to get students out into the wilderness, usually just for a day or a night or something like that. I'm not aware of too many that are doing what we are doing to the extent that we're doing it. One of the schools I've worked with through our institute does have an outdoor program in California. I think that's more of an optional program, though, not necessarily a mandatory one. So yeah.
San Miguel Academy in Newburgh, New York, with the middle school age kids do a lot of it. We have several relationships in Israel, and one of the schools that we relate to in Israel does a lot of outdoor stuff. They walk from the Mediterranean to the eastern Galilee as part of their passage experience. So there's some of those places around the world that we associate, where we interact with.
Great. All right. I think that covers it. I just think, I don't know, the awareness of the potential opportunities like this, like I assume this would be a forward trend, hopefully at least shifting this direction with experiential learning. But, yeah, appreciate you guys, sharing all this. It'd be very interesting. I think there'll be a few people that'll take a bit out of this. And I think there'll be a few people who are going to probably try to do a little research to be like, I could send my kid there, or I could have done something like, looking for even an opportunity. I'm sure there's versions of experiential learning out there in different metro cities. So I'd be curious if anybody ends up chiming in with I don't know, be very curious.
If anybody's interested, let us know. We're happy to interact with anybody, anywhere on the globe.
Yeah, I'll say two things to that. One is that's a lot of the work I do is working with other schools that are interested in what we do and helping them to understand more about that. And the second thing I'll say is, if there are educators out there that are both classroom people and interested in this, we're always looking for people that can work this project with us, right? So if when we're looking for teachers, when we need a new physics teacher, math teacher, history teacher that's also able to do the outdoor project with us, that's a good fit. So if there's somebody listening in this area that wants to apply for a job, we have those available too.
Where would people reach out? How would people get in touch with you guys?
So our website is www.spp.org, SPP for St. Benedict's Prep. You can find things there. You can certainly send me an email I can respond to at gcassidy@spp.org. Or like I said, just look us up online. I believe we also have postings on Indeed.
Great. I think that's all I got. Brakken?
Thanks for coming on, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate your interest. Stay.